Hi guys, so we're going to continue with the advanced environmental social work, and for this particular lecture we're going to look at major environmental challenges and how social workers address these challenges. So the role of social workers in addressing these issues, these environmental issues. Okay, let me just check if okay, I think that's good enough. All right. Okay, so what we want to do here is get our understand our specific roles in the arena of the environment. So what do environmental social workers do vis-a-vis the major environmental challenges globally taking place? So we've already agreed and we are in tandem that environmental challenges pose significant threats to human well-being, social stability, and global ecosystems. So we have already agreed that there's a relationship between the two, human beings and their environment, and that and the environmental challenges affect human beings and human beings affect the environment both positively and negatively. So, what is our role as professionals in this relationship? Let me just see if that is better or worse. Maybe that. Okay. At least you're getting me. If you're able to get me, I think, and get the content and see the material, that should be the key focus. So let me get back to the material. So we're going to look at these global environmental challenges and understand our roles so that we are not in conflict with other professionals and we know where to come in terms of multidisciplinary action because like we said before, environmental aspects matters cannot be left under the purview of one discipline. In order to ensure sustainability, we have to cover for all the pillars, the three pillars of sustainable development, which are the social pillar, the environmental pillar, and the economic pillar. And all of these pillars have professionals that are honed in them. So the solution giving is really multidisciplinary. So we're going to look at each challenge one by one and therefore what your role is going to be in action as a social worker, as an environmental social worker. So we'll start with climate change. Climate change is a long term shift in temperature and other weather patterns, primarily caused by human activities such as burning fossil fuels and deforestation. The key thing here is the emphasis that, sorry, it is not out of order for for climate to change. Like I said prior in other lectures, change is constant. Okay, change happens, including for the climate, and usually there's a 30-year expected time frame for reliable um, change in weather patterns and similar patterns such that we're able to predict, for example, planting seasons from one season to the other. But now, when we are no longer able to predict, and the patterns begin to differ, then we realize that there is now a climate change. Now, the natural time frame for this change to occur is a period of 30 years. For there to be a great variance that is noticeable, like we are seeing now. So it is not something out of order or out of the norm. But now, of course, any change causes discomfort and disruption. So, what are the impacts, for example, of the current climate change? The key impacts: rising global temperatures, which have led to extreme weather events, for example, heat waves, droughts, and hurricanes; melting ice caps and rising sea levels, which have caused coastal flooding and displacement. We've seen this even around rivers and lakes, and we've given examples in prior lectures, so we won't be so repetitive. Increased frequency of wildfires, these have affected air quality and biodiversity, disruption of agriculture and food security, among others. Now, how do social workers, or how should social workers respond? One, advocating for climate justice, ensuring therefore that vulnerable communities are protected. Two, assisting populations that have been displaced by climate related disasters. Three, promoting sustainable policies, that is working with the policymakers like MPs and MCAs, okay, and community resilience programs, which are housed in government, in counties, in NGOs, in CBOs, and others. All right, good. Another occurrence, climate occurrence, is pollution. Pollution comes in the various forms. Air can be polluted, water is polluted, soil is polluted. We also have plastic pollution. So pollution is the introduction of harmful substances into the environment, leading to negative effects on human health and ecosystems. So the types, like we said, air pollution, this includes emissions from industries, vehicles, and burning fossil fuels that cause respiratory diseases and contribute to climate change. Water pollution, contamination from industrial waste, plastic, and chemicals. This leads to unsafe drinking water and loss of marine life. Okay. Soil pollution, pesticides, heavy metals, and waste dumping reduce soil fertility and food security. I shared with you the example of the one previous class, the land and gold mining. You remember that? Soil pollution. I won't repeat it. Plastic pollution, non-biodegradable plastics accumulate in oceans and landfills. They harm wildlife and ecosystems. Okay. In brief, yeah, of course, there's more to that. But how do we respond? We support policies that reduce emissions and promote clean energy. So, again, working with policymakers and policy making organizations and instruments, educating communities about waste management and sustainable consumption, like recycling, advocating for rights of populations affected by industrial pollution. So advocacy work, work with civil society, right? Okay. Um, Another aspect of as an emerging issue or occurring issue internationally in terms of the environment is loss of biodiversity. This is the decline in the variety of life forms on Earth due to habitat destruction, pollution, climate change, and human exploitation. Like some habitat are not fast in moving. So let's say there's a fire that is affecting the forest is burning down. There are some habitat that will be able to fly away, and others are too slow. So they end up being extinct, but they're needed in terms of the maintenance of the balance of life. Okay. So the key impacts of loss of biodiversity includes the extinction of species, um, disrupting ecosystems and food chains. Okay, we also have loss of medicinal plants and genetic resources that are crucial for agriculture and health. Okay, like herb life. Okay, reduction in ecosystem services such as pollination, water purification, and soil fertility. So generally, the reduction in the quality of life of the natural habitat. How do we respond? We supporting conservation initiatives. So within the local communities, there are conservation initiatives that traditionally have existed, supporting them, supporting also new ones that have come through government, NGOs, CBOs, and other organizations. and also supporting community-led ecological restoration, promoting indigenous knowledge and sustainable land management, advocating for policies that protect endangered species and habitats. Okay, self-explanatory. Deforestation is another aspect of environmental abuse, and it refers to the large-scale clearing of forests for agriculture, urban development, and industrial use. The impacts are loss of carbon sinks, and therefore leading to accelerating climate change, the displacement of indigenous and rural communities, increased soil erosion, leading to reduced agricultural productivity, and destruction of wildlife habitats, leading to biodiversity loss. So, how do we respond? We engage in reforestation and afforestation programs through various organizations that I've already mentioned, advocating for sustainable land use policies and indigenous land rights. We've talked about that. Educating communities on the benefits of forest conservation. So, training, creating awareness. Then we have to deal with the issue of water scarcity. 70% of the globe is water, but now when you talk of water scarcity, particularly we're talking of fresh water scarcity. So this means a shortage of fresh water due to overuse, pollution, and climate change. The impacts include reduced access to safe drinking water, leading to health crisis, increased conflicts over water resources. It is said that the conflicts of the future are more likely to be about water than any other fresh water than any other matter. Another impact is impact on agriculture, affecting food production and livelihoods. Agriculture relies a lot on water and especially fresh water. So, how do we respond? We support water conservation programs and we support sustainable irrigation. We advocate for policies that ensure equitable access to clean water, and we assist communities in adapting to drought conditions, adaptation. Again, we have a waste management crisis. There's a lot of waste. Some particular waste mentioned is menstrual waste, waste from diapers. In terms of their recycling and management, is a challenge globally. So, waste management. They refers to the growing challenge in terms of the crisis, the growing challenge of managing household, industrial, and electronic waste. Electronic waste is also a major issue, like chargers, phone chargers that are spoiled, computer cables that are no longer in use. Okay, the key impacts are accumulation of hazardous waste, which leads to health risks and environmental contamination. Overfilled landfills contribute to methane emissions, which is a potent greenhouse gas. Electronic waste, e-waste, exposes communities to toxic heavy metals. So, how do we respond? We promote recycling and sustainable waste disposal um, practices. We advocate for regulations on corporate responsibility for waste management, and we educate communities about reducing waste and sustainable consumer choices. In conclusion, um, these environmental challenges that we are facing require urgent attention. The urgency is the matter here, particularly when it comes to development of the right policies and creating awareness among community members. They also require collaborative action. Okay, we can't work on our own. We shouldn't work on our own, or certain groups shouldn't work on their own. It needs collaborative action. So we play a key role in addressing the human impact of environmental degradation, and we do this through advocacy, through education, through community empowerment, and policy influence. All right. So by integrating environmental justice into social work, we can contribute to a more sustainable and equitable future. So the world needs us. All right. Okay, so feel free to reach out for any further clarification, reach out through the class rep or reach out directly, and we will carry on with the rest of the timetable as expected, hopefully, in the next class. Cheers.